Hello and welcome to another video on the JJ Think Tank. I hope you're doing well this morning, if you are watching this in the morning. Today I want to talk about trauma, the body, and how to recover, and different strategies that we can adopt in order to recover. So I won't refer to Gabor Maté in this video. Perhaps I will return to the topic of trauma some other time. But he said something very interesting, that trauma is a silent health issue that is affecting large proportions of the population in the Western countries. So it's a silent epidemic that is not really addressed by the health authorities, and effective health treatments are not readily available for the general public. Of course, now this is perhaps changing. There are new treatments available, as opposed to the standard traditional practice of just dosing out dangerous drugs, chemicals, yes, Prozac for instance, and other such chemical substances. Returning now to the books that I will cover in this video. I've got here The Body Keeps a Score by Bessel van der Kolk. And in his book he dives into what trauma is, how it arises, how many of us are affected by trauma to varying degrees. Some people, of course, are much more damaged, we could say. For instance, those who took part in a war somewhere, usually because of their horrifying traumatic experiences, develop PTSD, which is an extremely damaging form of trauma that takes a while to recover from. But even then, it is my opinion that vast swathes of the population unknowingly carry a lot of trauma, or perhaps they do know that they have trauma and they are working on it. But many people, they are affected by it, and it's, as I said, a silent health issue and epidemic. So, how can we treat trauma? Yes, what other methods are there that we can apply and use in our own lives to break down this trauma and process it? Yes. Here Bessel provides many solutions. Some I knew of already, but various other strategies were unknown to me and perked my interest. So, for instance, here in I'm just trying to find it here in my article. Oh, here we have it. EMDR, neurofeedback, and theatre as therapy. So these were a few strategies that Bessel notes in his book. And I guess theatre is an interesting one because when we think of the theatre, it's kind of an area where you are able to express your emotions in a more healthy way, we could say, because obviously the theatre it's a virtual environment. It's an environment that is not real in the sense of being a real, we could say, family situation or personal situation. It doesn't involve personal relationships that we have in our daily lives. And through the theatre, through adopting certain characters and their particular personalities, we can channel our own, shall we say, repressed emotions or energies that we haven't been able to release. And of course, by doing so, we can process our trauma. I should say, instead of releasing these negative energies, these negative emotions on people who we know, yes, and who we love, because this is not the correct strategy in the long run, yes, because ultimately we are digging a bigger hole for ourselves. But perhaps I want to include a more personal aspect now. So I've used various strategies to overcome my trauma. Thankfully, my trauma is not so extreme as those who perhaps are recovering war veterans or who have really been involved in abusive relationships or toxic environments. Of course, for this I should be very grateful and thankful, because we always have to remember that there are many people out there who are less fortunate than us and who have to struggle with much more difficult circumstances. Yes, but yes. So what helped me was really finding out what I actually like doing. So, for instance, in my case, playing the piano is something that gives me a lot of joy. Reading books, writing, I guess it's a form of escape, we could say, but at the same time, these activities develop you, and they help you. They help to change your brain, we could say, because this is what trauma really is about. It's about changing your brain, the structure of your brain, and how it operates. Yes. So these two activities really helps me, I feel, but also basic strategies that we all know of. For instance, exercising, going to the gym, sweating as much as possible, which is why I actually go to the sauna a few times a week. I think the sauna is a way of entering your body and being more in tune with your body. And of course, when you sweat, you also at the same time release a lot of toxic material that accumulates in your body. Yes. So this has helped me as well. But also striving to mend my relationships. So all of my personal relationships, perhaps in the past, weren't so functional. They were dysfunctional, and trying to overcome this was, and still, working on my personal relationships it's another important aspect of transforming your trauma. So let's now try and find some important quotes and other bits of information that Bessel provides in his book. Yes. So here I started my article with these two quotes here, and these quotes really rang a bell within me. I could relate a lot to these particular quotes, and they read as follows: "As long as you keep secrets and suppress information, you are fundamentally at war with yourself. The critical issue is allowing yourself to know what you know. That takes an enormous amount of courage." And the second one goes, "Being able to feel safe with other people is probably the single most important aspect of mental health. Safe connections are fundamental to meaningful and satisfying lives." So, analysing now the structure of Western civilization, of the economic structure, we can definitely say that this also plays a part in creating trauma. Yes, mass widespread trauma, because people are forced to work more and more hours, which of course creates a lot of stress. And because they don't have control over their time, they're not able, yes, to form these meaningful relationships, yes, that are fundamental to our lives. So now I've just gone on a bit of a tangent because I forgot to mention how really a lot of the trauma with a little t, so small cases of trauma, so I guess the trauma that people in the West have, average citizens, I would argue that a lot of this trauma is created by the toxic capitalistic system that is arising now, and it's becoming even stronger. People are being exploited, and this, in my view, this definitely has an impact. Yes. Of course, we should not make victims of ourselves, but we should bear this in mind, because ultimately, if we don't change our situation and our environment, how we manage our time, then in the long run, we will be negatively affected. Yes. So I think that will be all from me today. This was a bit more of a serious video. I guess this is a serious topic, and yes, I hope you found something interesting. And, I would recommend this book definitely, by Bessel van der Kolk. I've only scratched the surface really. For instance, here I've just turned to a page on dissociation. So trauma really is, in a way, it's a dissociation from yourself. Yes, you are not in tune with your personality. You're split from the self, from your inner core. Of course, here we could go into various theories of Jung, of Freud, other psychologists, yes, what the self is, etc. But this is not really relevant to this video. But yes, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like and subscribe if you're interested in more videos. And I'll see you on the next one.